Okay, so get this right. Imagine like a world where everything, and I mean everything, is constantly changing,
Mm.
like really changing.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean like the weather, or like your mood swings or whatever.
Hmm.
This is like the very fabric of reality, like existence itself is in constant flux.
Yeah.
That's the world, according to this guy, Heraclitus, this philosopher of becoming.
That's right.
And so today we're going to take like a deep dive into his ideas.
Okay.
Some of them are pretty cryptic. Some are kind of mind-bending.
Yeah, he can be a little tough to decipher.
But they're all surprisingly relevant even like thousands of years later.
Oh, absolutely.
So you guys send us a bunch of articles, right, and your own notes and stuff on Heraclitus.
Yeah, tons of great stuff.
So let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So first, who is this guy Heraclitus?
Right. So, well, he was a pre-Socratic philosopher,
Pre-Socratic.
meaning, before Socrates.
Okay.
So we're talking ancient Greece here.
Gotcha.
And it's really important to understand that context, right?
Okay.
Because back then, people were, like, really wrestling with some big, like, huge questions about the nature of reality itself.
Oh, wow.
Like, what is the world even made of?
Right.
How can we know anything for sure? That kind of stuff.
Deep stuff.
Really deep. And Heraclitus's ideas, they came out of this really intense period of philosophical exploration.
So it wasn't just like, some ivory tower philosophizing.
Yep.
This was about understanding like the essence of existence.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so one of his biggest ideas, right, maybe the one he's most known for, is this idea that everything flows.
Right. Everything flows.
And he wasn't just talking about like rivers and streams here.
Right.
He meant everything. Like everything is in a constant state of change.
That's it. And, that concept's actually perfectly encapsulated in that phrase, pantere, which translates to everything flows.
Pantere.
Yeah. So basically, if we take Heraclitus at his word, that means there's no such thing as like a static, unchanging being.
Oh, interesting.
Instead, reality is a process. It's an ongoing flow of becoming.
Okay. Now here's where it gets like really interesting, I think.
Okay.
One of the articles that you sent mentioned that he used fire as a metaphor for this constant change.
Right.
And when you think about it, like fire is never still.
Yeah.
It's always consuming, always creating, always transforming.
It's a brilliant metaphor, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It really captures the essence of his philosophy. But he wasn't suggesting that, reality is just random chaos.
Right.
Instead, he believed there's a hidden order to things.
Oh, okay.
There's like a guiding principle, a logos, if you will.
Logos, okay.
That kind of governs this constant process of change.
Okay, so let's break down this whole logos thing.
All right.
It seems like it's a pretty loaded term.
It is.
And the sources mention that it can be translated like as reason, word, or even law.
Yeah, it's pretty versatile.
So what did he really mean by logos?
Right. So it is a very complex concept for sure, but at its core. Logos represents a kind of like underlying unity in the universe.
Okay.
It's like almost like an invisible thread.
Yeah.
That connects all things, and guides this whole process of becoming.
Okay.
Think of it this way.
Okay.
The logo is what ensures that the flow of change isn't random, but rather that it has like a direction and a purpose.
So it's less about like rigid rules and more about like an underlying pattern.
Exactly.
Like a harmony.
Harmony, yeah.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of everything.
Okay.
The way that even seemingly opposite forces are actually interdependent.
Okay.
And speaking of opposites, that's another one of Heraclitus's mind-bending ideas, right? He believed that opposites weren't actually in conflict.
Oh, really?
But rather that they defined and depended on each other.
Okay.
Like life and death, day and night, hot and cold. They all exist in this like state of dynamic tension.
Wait, hold on. How can opposites not be in conflict?
Right. It seems counterintuitive.
Totally.
Think about it like this.
Okay.
A river is constantly, flowing, changing. Yet it remains the same river, right?
Sure.
The water flowing in is the same river, but the water flowing out is different water.
Yeah.
So these seemingly opposite concepts, same and different, actually define each other.
Huh.
They rely on each other to create the reality of the river. It's a bit like a dance, where each step relies on the previous one to create movement and flow.
Wow, that's a really helpful way to visualize it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a way, opposites are actually complementary. They
Yeah.
need each other to exist.
Exactly. They're two sides of the same coin, separable,
Yeah.
and essential to the overall process of becoming. And this idea really sets Heraclitus apart from other philosophers of his time, like Parmenides, for example,
Okay.
who believed in an unchanging eternal reality. I mean, they had completely opposing views of the universe.
It's like they were looking at the same thing, but seeing completely different realities.
Yeah, pretty much. And, speaking of different realities, some of the sources you sent mentioned that Heraclitus has been called like the dark one or the obscure.
The dark one.
Yeah, because of his writing style,
Yeah.
He could be pretty cryptic at times.
Yeah, we did talk about how cryptic he could be.
Right.
So was he being intentionally obscure, or was that just like how people communicated philosophical ideas back then?
It's hard to say for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's important to consider like the context of his time. The way people communicated and expressed ideas back then was very different from how we do it today.
Right, right.
But even though his writing could be cryptic, his ideas were incredibly influential.
Interesting.
Yeah, in fact, his philosophy still resonates with thinkers today, even in the realm of modern science.
Wait, really?
Oh, yeah.
Like, can you give us an example?
Well, think about the field of thermodynamics.
Okay.
One of its key principles is entropy, right?
Yeah.
The idea that the overall disorder in a closed system always increases over time.
Right.
It's like the universe itself is constantly in a state of becoming, just as Heraclitus suggested.
So even though he didn't have the scientific tools that we have today,
Right.
he was still able to intuit some pretty profound truths
He was.
about the nature of reality.
And that's just one example. His ideas about the unity of opposites also have parallels in quantum mechanics,
Quantum mechanics.
where particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously. Like they embody both possibilities, both opposites at the same time.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. It's incredible to think that a philosopher from ancient Greece could have such a lasting impact, even on modern science.
I know. It really speaks to the power of his ideas.
Yeah.
But we've only just, scratched the surface of his fascinating and complex philosophy.
I know, right?
There's still so much more to explore.
Yeah.
So much more to unpack.
Yeah.
So much more.
Okay.
Let's,
Should we?
yeah, let's keep going.
Okay. So, before the break, we were just kind of blown away by how Heraclitus, this philosopher of flux, seemed to kind of anticipate some of the most groundbreaking scientific discoveries of our time.
No, it's why.
And it makes you wonder what other gems of wisdom might be hidden in this ancient philosophy.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And speaking of connections,
Okay.
we were about to kind of dive into how Heraclitus's ideas influenced some of the, most prominent philosophical schools of thought.
Mhm.
And I think we were going to start with the Stoics, right?
Yes.
Those masters of resilience and inner peace. Right. So what did they find so compelling about Heraclitus's ideas?
Well, I think they were really drawn to this concept of logos, like that underlying order guiding this constant flux of the universe.
Okay.
And remember, for Heraclitus, logos wasn't about rigid rules or anything.
Right.
It was more like a cosmic dance,
Yeah.
a harmonious flow,
Okay.
underlying the apparent chaos.
Gotcha.
And the Stoics, they kind of took this idea and ran with it.
Okay.
They saw logos as a divine reason that permeates all of existence.
Okay.
And for them, living in accordance with this logos was the key to a virtuous and fulfilling life.
So it was about finding a way to live in harmony with the natural order of things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Stoics believed that by aligning ourselves with this natural order, we could achieve, tranquility and inner peace.
Yeah.
And this resonates beautifully with Heraclitus's idea that everything is in flux.
Mm-hmm.
The Stoics recognized that by embracing change as a fundamental aspect of reality,
Right.
we could learn to detach from external circumstances and focus on what we can control,
And what's that?
our own thoughts and actions,
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Right.
Trying to resist the inevitable flow of change only leads to frustration and suffering.
Totally.
So in a way, Heraclitus's philosophy provided a foundation for their ethical
Precisely. Yeah.
Okay.
He gave them a framework
Yeah.
for understanding not just the natural world,
mhm.
but also the inner world of human experience.
Right.
And the Stoics weren't the only ones who were inspired by Heraclitus.
Okay.
He also had like a major influence on this guy, Hegel,
Hegel.
the German philosopher,
Yeah.
known for his like complex and influential concept of dialectics.
Hegel, now he's a thinker. I've always found like a bit intimidating.
Oh, yeah, he can be.
Yeah, so can you give us like the deep dive summary of his philosophy?
I'll do my best.
Okay.
In a nutshell,
Mm-hmm.
Hegel saw history as unfolding through this process of dialectical development.
Okay.
So imagine like this constant clash of ideas
Okay.
where contradictions emerge
Mm-hmm.
and new syntheses are formed.
Yeah.
It's like a never-ending process
Oh, yeah.
of tension and resolution.
Gotcha.
A lot like that dance of opposites
Yeah.
that Heraclitus talked about.
Okay, so for Hegel, history wasn't like a linear progression,
No.
but a dynamic process
Right.
driven by like the interplay of opposing forces.
You got it.
Wow.
And he directly credited Heraclitus with like laying the groundwork for this idea.
Interesting.
Remember the unity of opposites?
Yes.
Hegel saw that as a like precursor
Okay.
to his own dialectical method.
Gotcha.
For Hegel, opposites weren't like mutually exclusive,
Mhm.
but were actually interdependent
Okay.
and necessary for the development of thought and history.
Wow. So Heraclitus's philosophy provided a framework for understanding not just the natural world and our inner lives,
Right.
but also like the grand sweep of history.
And his influence doesn't stop there.
Oh, really?
Even Friedrich Nietzsche,
Nietzsche.
the 19th century philosopher known for his like bold and often controversial ideas,
Right.
found inspiration in Heraclitus.
Nietzsche, like the God is dead guy.
Yeah, that's the one.
He seems like a very different thinker from like the Stoics.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like Heraclitus, Nietzsche embraced this idea of constant change and transformation.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about the river always flowing, always changing?
Yeah.
Nietzsche saw this constant flux as like a vital creative force
Huh?
and rejected any notion of like a fixed or eternal reality.
So for Nietzsche, change wasn't something to be like feared or resisted, but
Right.
something to be embraced and
Yeah.
even celebrated.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ooh.
He saw it as like the very essence of life, the driving force behind, growth, self-overcoming, and the creation of like new values.
Okay.
He even proposed this idea of eternal recurrence.
Eternal recurrence.
Yeah, suggesting that everything that has happened will happen again and again.
Whoa.
And for Nietzsche, this wasn't like a terrifying thought.
Right.
It was a joyful affirmation of life's dynamism.
Okay. That is a mind-blowing concept. It's
Well-
almost as if like Nietzsche took Heraclitus's idea of everything flows and like turned it into this like cosmic dance
Yeah.
that just repeats for like all eternity.
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And it kind of highlights how Heraclitus's philosophy, though rooted in ancient Greece,
Right.
has had like a ripple effect through history,
Yeah.
influencing thinkers across like diverse fields and time periods.
It's incredible to think that these ideas formulated like over 2,500 years ago
Right.
still have so much relevance today.
Absolutely.
But we'd be remiss if we didn't also acknowledge that Heraclitus wasn't like without his critics, right?
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
As much as like his ideas have resonated through the ages,
Mm-hmm.
there have always been those who found his philosophy a bit too, radical or challenging.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, even in the ancient Greece,
Okay.
some people found his ideas
Mm-hmm.
and his writing style a bit hard to swallow.
Yeah, we did talk about how cryptic he could be.
Right.
I can imagine that not everyone like appreciated his philosophical riddles.
Exactly, yeah. His enigmatic fragments open to multiple interpretations could be frustrating for those seeking like straightforward answers.
Yeah.
And some of his ideas, like the notion that we can, quote, never step in the same river twice,
Right.
seem to like defy common sense and logic.
Yeah, it does make you question how we can like know anything for sure if
Oh.
everything is constantly changing.
That's the heart of the matter, isn't it?
Yeah.
Heraclitus's philosophy, it challenges us to confront like the limits of our knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and to embrace a certain degree of uncertainty.
Okay.
Some people accused him of relativism,
Relativism.
the idea that there is no objective truth.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do we reconcile that
Yeah,
with
yeah.
our desire to like understand the world, to make sense of things?
That's a question that, philosophers have been grappling with for centuries.
Yeah.
And while Heraclitus might not offer like easy answers,
Right.
he does offer a valuable perspective.
Okay.
He encourages us to be open to like multiple interpretations, to acknowledge like the inherent ambiguity of language.
Yeah.
And to recognize that our understanding of the world is always evolving.
So in a way, Heraclitus is like asking us to become more comfortable with the unknown, with the mysteries that like lie at the heart of existence.
Precisely. Yeah.
Okay, I love that.
Right.
It's like he's saying, don't be afraid to get a little lost in the flow of becoming.
That's great.
Yeah, okay. So welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Heraclitus.
Yeah.
And, we've explored all these mind-bending ideas about change, the unity of opposites, and that, that elusive logos guiding it all.
Right.
We've seen how his philosophy resonated with like ancient schools of thought, like the Stoics, and continues to like spark debate among like modern thinkers.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up, let's bring it all home.
Okay.
What can we like in the 21st century actually do with Heraclitus's ideas?
Right. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do we take these ancient concepts and actually like apply them to our modern lives?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the most powerful takeaways from Heraclitus is this importance of embracing change.
Okay.
He reminds us that nothing is permanent.
Right.
Everything is in flux.
And that trying to resist this natural flow only leads to frustration and suffering.
So instead of like clinging to fixed ideas or resisting the inevitable, we should try to like ride the waves of change.
Exactly. Imagine like a surfer trying to fight the ocean currents instead of paddling with them.
Right.
It's exhausting and ultimately futile.
Yeah.
Heraclitus encourages us to become more like skilled surfers.
Okay.
Adapting to the ever-changing conditions and finding a sense of flow within like the constant movement of life.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about how we often try to hold on to things, like relationships, beliefs, even our own identities, as if they were static and unchanging.
And that can lead to a lot of unhappiness, can it?
Yeah, I think so.
Because the reality is that everything is impermanent.
Right.
Our bodies change, our minds change. The world around us is in constant flux. Heraclitus reminds us to let go of like rigid attachments and to embrace the beauty of impermanence.
So what does that like look like in practice? How do we actually embrace change instead of fearing it?
Well, I think it starts with like awareness.
Okay.
Noticing the constant changes happening within ourselves and in the world around us.
Yeah.
It's about becoming more present, more mindful of the flow of experience.
Yeah.
And then it's about cultivating a mindset
Okay.
of flexibility and adaptability.
Gotcha.
So instead of clinging to like how we think things should be, we can learn to accept what is and to adapt to new circumstances with grace and resilience.
So it's about becoming more comfortable with like uncertainty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because uncertainty is a fundamental part of life.
Right.
And when we can accept that, we can start to see change not as like a threat, but as an opportunity for growth and transformation.
I like that.
And remember Heraclitus' idea about the unity of opposites.
Yes.
That's relevant here too.
How so?
Well, without change, there can be no growth, right?
Right.
Without loss, we can't fully appreciate what we have.
Yeah, that's true.
Without challenges, we wouldn't develop strength and resilience. Heraclitus saw these opposites as like interconnected.
Okay.
Each defining and enhancing the other.
So maybe embracing change is also about recognizing that even like difficult experiences have the potential to teach us and help us grow.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about finding the hidden gifts within the challenges, the opportunities for learning and transformation that come with every twist and turn of life.
Yeah. And remember, this isn't about becoming passive, right?
No.
Or resigning ourselves to whatever happens.
Yeah, not at all.
It's about recognizing that we have the power to choose how we respond to change.
Right.
To find meaning and purpose within like the flow of experience.
It's about becoming like active participants in the dance of life.
Beautifully put.
And that brings us to another like key takeaway from Heraclitus. This this interconnectedness of everything.
Okay.
His idea of the unity of opposites
Yeah.
reminds us that we're all part of like a larger web of relationships, that everything is connected in ways that we may not always perceive.
Right. So it's about recognizing that our actions have consequences.
Yeah.
That we're not like isolated individuals,
No.
but part of a larger ecosystem.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this awareness can lead to a sense of, responsibility, a deeper understanding of how our choices
Right.
impact others and the world around us.
Right.
It can also foster like a sense of compassion and empathy,
Yeah.
recognizing that we're all in this together,
Yeah.
navigating the ever-changing currents of life.
It's like Heraclitus is like inviting us to zoom out, to see the bigger picture, to recognize like the intricate web of connections that binds us all together.
And finally, I think Heraclitus reminds us
Yeah.
to cultivate a sense of humility
Okay.
in the face of like the vastness and mystery of the universe. He knew that our knowledge is always like incomplete.
Right.
That our understanding of the world is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And that there will always be things we don't know or fully understand.
So it's okay to embrace the mystery,
Absolutely.
to acknowledge that we don't have all the answers.
It's essential.
Okay.
Because when we let go of the need to like know everything, to have all the answers,
Right?
we open ourselves up to wonder,
Yeah.
to curiosity, to the joy of discovery.
That's nice.
And isn't that what life is all about?
Learning, growing, evolving, becoming.
Yeah.
Just like Heraclitus taught us.
That's it.
Well, I think we've come full circle in our exploration of Heraclitus's philosophy.
Yeah,
We've traveled from ancient Greece to the frontiers of modern science.
That's right.
And we've discovered how these timeless ideas can help us navigate the complexities of modern life.
It's been an incredible journey, hasn't it?
It really has.
I hope our listeners have found it as thought-provoking and inspiring as we have.
I'm sure they have.
Yeah.
And, if anyone out there is still scratching their heads trying to wrap their minds around Heraclitus's enigmatic pronouncements,
Right.
well, that's perfectly all right. As we've learned, his philosophy is all about embracing the mystery and finding your own meaning within the flow of experience.
Well said.
So until next time, dear listeners, keep those fires of curiosity burning bright.
Yes.
And remember, you can never step in the same river twice.
Goodbye and happy flowing.
See ya!